He stood in front of his own house, keys in hand, door just inches away, when everything stopped. Eyes locked onto him from across the street. A phone lifted, a call made. Within minutes, suspicion replaced normalcy, and ownership turned into doubt. He wasn't trespassing. He wasn't lost. He lived there. But to them, that didn't matter. What unfolded next wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was something deeper, something far more unsettling. How do you prove you belong in a place that refuses to believe you do? It had taken years for him to get there. Long hours, careful savings, quiet sacrifices, every step building towards something that finally felt like his. That house wasn't just a place to live. It was proof of everything he had worked for. Early mornings, late nights, the kind of discipline no one ever saw, it all led to that front door. The neighborhood was calm, almost too perfect. Neatly trimmed lawns, familiar routines, faces that rarely changed. He kept to himself, respectful, consistent. The kind of neighbor who caused no trouble, who gave no reason to be questioned. At least, that's what he believed. But there were moments, small, almost invisible. A pause that lasted a second too long. A glance that didn't feel neutral. Subtle shifts that were easy to ignore if you wanted peace badly enough. That evening, nothing seemed different. Same street, same house, same quiet sense of belonging. Until the moment he reached his own door, and someone decided he didn't belong there at all. The sound reached him before the moment made sense. Tires rolling slower than they should. A car easing to a stop instead of passing by. He didn't turn at first, just focused on the lock, on the familiar click that should have ended the day like any other. But it didn't. A voice carried across the quiet street. Not loud, but sharp enough to cut through the calm. The kind of tone that didn't ask, it assumed. He felt it more than he heard it. That sudden shift in the air, like something had gone wrong without warning. He turned slightly, just enough to see it. A figure standing at a distance, watching too closely. Phone raised. Attention fixed entirely on him. Not curiosity, something else. Something colder. He looked back at the door, trying to ignore it. This was his home, his space. There was nothing to explain, nothing to prove. The key slid into the lock, his hand steady, but his chest tightening in a way he couldn't ignore anymore. Then came the words. Accusations, carefully disguised as concern. Questions that weren't really questions. The kind that already had answers attached to them. Answers that didn't include him belonging there. Each sentence pulled tighter around him, turning a normal moment into something suffocating. He tried to stay calm, kept his movements slow, controlled. No sudden gestures, no reactions that could be misunderstood. Because somehow, without him doing anything at all, this had already turned into a situation. And then, sirens. Faint at first, distant, but getting closer. His grip on the keys tightened. The door was right there, just inches away. Safety within reach. But suddenly, it didn't feel like safety anymore. It felt like a line he might not be allowed to cross. Lights flashed against the houses, breaking the stillness of the street. Red and blue reflections bounced off windows, off cars, off the very door he was trying to open. The entire neighborhood seemed to shift, watching without stepping in. Silent witnesses. The car doors opened. Everything slowed down. He could feel it, the weight of what was about to happen. Not because of what he had done, but because of how he was seen. His mind raced through possibilities, through outcomes that didn't make sense but felt all too real. Hands visible. Stay calm. Don't move too fast. Instructions he had learned without ever being taught. Footsteps approached, firm and controlled. The kind that carried authority before a single word was spoken. He didn't turn fully this time. He didn't need to. He already knew how this would look from the outside. A man standing at a door. A call reporting suspicion. A narrative forming in seconds. And in that narrative, he was already guilty. The voice came again, closer now, sharper, leaving no room for misunderstanding. A command, not a conversation. He froze. The key was still in his hand. The door was still locked. The distance between him and his own home had never felt so impossible. For a moment, everything hung in place, like the world was waiting to see what he would do next. Because whatever happened now, wouldn't just decide how this ended. It would decide how far this could go. The command came sharper this time, cutting through any remaining space for calm. Hands up. Step away. Now. He obeyed instantly, slowly, carefully, every movement measured, like the air itself had turned fragile. The key slipped from his fingers, hitting the ground with a sound that felt louder than it should have been. His own front door stood behind him, so close, yet suddenly unreachable. More voices, more presence. The situation escalated in seconds. What started as suspicion hardened into certainty. He could feel it in the way they surrounded him. Not asking, not listening, just acting. Then it happened. Hands grabbed him, forced him down. The ground rushed up faster than he could react. His chest hit first, the impact knocking the air out of him. Cold pressure pinned his arms behind his back. Metal closed around his wrists with a final, unmistakable click. And just like that, he wasn't a homeowner anymore. He was a suspect. Faces appeared at the edges of his vision. Neighbors watching. Phones raised. Recording. No one is stepping forward. No one is questioning it. The story had already been written in their minds, and he was trapped inside it. His heart pounded against the pavement, each beat louder than the last. He tried to speak, to explain, to point to the door just feet away, but his voice felt swallowed by the chaos around him. Because in that moment, the truth didn't matter. What mattered was perception, and perception had already decided who he was. As the weight pressed harder against his back and the reality settled in, one thought cut deeper than anything else. How did owning his own home turn into this? It didn't end quickly, not with an apology, not with immediate understanding. Just confusion stretching into silence as the truth slowly forced its way into the moment. Identification checked. Address confirmed. The same door he had been reaching for now stood as undeniable proof. The energy shifted, but not enough to erase what had already happened. The pressure lifted from his back. The cuffs came off. The voices that once carried certainty now carried something quieter, something uncertain. But the damage didn't disappear with the tension. It lingered, in the stairs, in the distance, in the quiet way everything returned to normal for everyone except him. He stood up in front of his own home, but it didn't feel the same. The place he had worked so hard for, the place that once meant security, now carried a memory he couldn't shake. The ground where he had been forced down, the door he hadn't been allowed to reach. And the realization hit harder than anything else. He had done everything right, and it still wasn't enough. Days passed, but the moment stayed. Not just in his mind, but in the way he moved, the way he thought, the way he understood the world around him. Because what happened that night wasn't just about one call, one mistake, or one misunderstanding. It was about something deeper, something that turns belonging into suspicion, ownership into doubt, and identity into a reason to question someone's right to exist in their own space. And stories like his don't just fade away. They repeat, in different neighborhoods, on different streets, with different names, but the same outcome. Because the real question isn't what happened that night. It's why it keeps happening at all. He was standing at his own front door when someone decided he didn't belong. And within minutes, his life was turned into a scene of suspicion, force, and public humiliation that no one should ever have to endure. Watch this story unfold and see how quickly reality can change when judgment replaces truth. If this moved you, don't stay silent. Like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to be part of a growing voice that refuses to ignore stories like this.